Eli Braxton rode into Bitter Creek as the morning sun lifted over the Wyoming plains, casting long shadows across the cattle pens. He preferred arriving early, before the noise of traders and auctioneers swelled into the usual chaos. Silence suited him. It had suited him for years. A man who had buried both a wife and a future learns to live inside quiet places. He dismounted, tying his horse to a weather-worn rail outside the small market yard. His plan was simple: buy a milk cow, return to his ranch before dusk, and continue the slow task of rebuilding a life that felt more like an obligation than a purpose. Eli moved through the stalls with the detached ease of someone who had done this 100 times. But then he felt it, a presence small enough to miss, yet persistent enough to stop him mid-step. A boy, no older than 7, stood near his boots. Dust streaked his cheeks, and his clothes hung loose on a frame far thinner than it should have been. He did not speak at first. He merely looked up at Eli with eyes too solemn for a child. "You lost?" Eli asked, keeping his tone mild. The boy shook his head. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a fragile whisper. "It's my mommy's last day alive." The word struck Eli harder than any blow. He blinked, unsure he had heard correctly. "What did you say?" The boy's mouth tightened, as though holding back fear. "She'll die before sundown if nobody helps." Before Eli could ask anything more, where she was, who threatened her, why he'd come to Eli, the child retreated into the crowd. Within seconds, he vanished between bodies and saddlebags, leaving behind only the echo of his desperate plea. Eli stood frozen, pulse thudding like hoofbeats in his ears. He had come for a cow. Nothing more. Yet something inside him tugged sharply, the way grief sometimes rises without warning. He exhaled slowly, eyes fixed on the direction the boy had fled. Whatever waited beyond Bitter Creek, he knew one truth. He couldn't walk away. Not this time. Eli Braxton left Bitter Creek at a steady gallop, the boy's whisper circling his thoughts like a hawk over carrion. He told himself he was only riding out of curiosity, yet he knew better. Something in the child's trembling voice had hooked itself into the raw places of his past. The plains stretched quiet before him, offering no comfort, only the long road toward whatever trouble waited. He slowed near a break in the land where pine trees crowded close. The earth here was softer, and impressions stood out clearly. Small footprints, hurried and uneven, alongside deeper tracks made by heavier boots. Someone had been taken this way, dragged or pushed. The boy's fear had not been imagined. Eli dismounted and followed the trail on foot. The forest swallowed sound, its stillness tense and expectant. He kept a hand near his revolver but didn't draw it. A bullet fired too soon could doom the woman he meant to help. Sunlight filtered through the canopy in thin, wavering beams, guiding him deeper. A faint rustle made him pause. "Don't shoot," a small voice breathed. The boy emerged from behind a fallen log, cheeks streaked with dust and resolve. He looked less frightened now, more desperate. "You came," he said. "Didn't leave me much of a choice," Eli replied. "Start talking." "Who took her?" "2 men. The Dawson brothers." Sam swallowed hard. "They think my mother knows where stolen gold is. She doesn't. They said they'll kill her by sundown if she won't tell." Eli felt a grim weight settle on him. The Dawsons were known for cruelty, not cunning. If they believed the woman had information, they would squeeze her until she broke or died. "Where?" Eli asked. Sam pointed deeper into the pines. "An old cabin. Not far." They moved together through the woods until the clearing appeared. A leaning cabin sat against the slope, smoke rising from its crooked chimney. One outlaw paced the porch with a shotgun. Eli crouched behind a boulder, jaw tightening. The boy tugged his sleeve. "Please, don't let them hurt her." Eli nodded once, eyes narrowing. This was no longer curiosity. It was a promise. Eli studied the cabin with the sharp focus of a man who had learned caution the hard way. The structure leaned slightly to one side, its boards warped from seasons of cold and neglect. Smoke drifted lazily from the chimney, evidence the Dawsons felt no need to hide. Men like them believed fear was better than any disguise. The younger Dawson brother paced the porch, tapping his shotgun against his thigh in an impatient rhythm. He scanned the tree line, unaware of the danger crouched just beyond it. Eli watched him long enough to recognize the type: nervous, reckless, eager to prove something violent. A wrong step near a man like that could mean instant bloodshed. Eli motioned Sam farther behind the boulder. "Stay low. Stay silent." The boy nodded, gripping a fistful of pine needles to keep his hands from shaking. Eli moved around the clearing's edge, keeping to the shadows where brush grew thick. Every step was deliberate, his boots sinking quietly into moss and soil. When he reached the back wall of the cabin, he pressed himself against the rough boards and listened. Voices seeped through the cracks, one sharp with cruelty, the other weak but unbroken. "You know where it is," snarled the older Dawson. "A stash that big doesn't just vanish." A woman's reply followed, hoarse yet steady. "I told you, I don't know anything." Eli's jaw tightened. Her resolve impressed him, though he feared how long it could hold. The older Dawson was patient only with violence. He shifted to peer through a narrow gap in the boards. Inside, Lydia stood with her wrists bound, bruise blooming across her cheek. Even cornered and exhausted, she held herself with a fierce dignity. The older brother towered over her, gripping her arm as though testing where it might break easiest. Eli drew back, heart thudding with a mixture of urgency and something more complicated, something he hadn't felt since before grief hollowed him out. He scanned the clearing again, mapping his next move. 2 outlaws. 1 hostage. A child counting on him. No easy path forward. Only the necessary one. Eli exhaled and rested his palm on the butt of his revolver. The moment for watching was over. The moment for acting had arrived.